Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Bartle, and I'm talking about the three players I love and hate entering Week 10. First on the list is Patrick Mahomes. And of course, we finally saw Mahomes have a fantasy-worthy game relative to his ADP last Monday against the Buccaneers. It's not that I think the Chiefs are going to struggle against the Broncos. In fact, I think they'll probably win handily. But you know that Kareem Hunt and company are going to be able to bludgeon the Broncos defense to death. And just like last week, where Bo Nix struggled against the Ravens defense, when Sean Payton and the Broncos play an actually competent team, offensively they struggle. So in the instance where Patrick Mahomes doesn't need to generate a ton of production, doesn't have an overtime game, which will work in his favor, I think he kind of falls right where he has been recently, outside the top 10 quarterbacks. I'd rather play Justin Herbert and maybe even Russell Wilson. All should be considered over Mahomes this week. I think Patrick Mahomes is outside the quarterback one conversation for me. Along the same lines of my hate list, it's DJ Moore. Now, it's not surprising to me that the Bears have struggled against actually good teams. Their only wins have come against teams that had, at least to last week, one win in the season. And I'm also not surprised that there seems to be leadership and coaching issues in Chicago. Now, to be clear, it wasn't cool that DJ Moore left mid-play against the Cardinals. Whether that was an ankle injury or not, I'm not sure. That goes on DJ Moore as much as it goes on the coaching staff. But for whatever the reason, the Bears have not been involving DJ Moore against teams other than Jacksonville. Right, a couple weeks ago, he had 2 touchdowns. Other than that, DJ Moore has been well outside wide receiver 3 play. I don't know how that changes. I would imagine the Bears franchise isn't a team that rewards a player for doing that kind of thing and gets him force-fed the ball. This is not quite the organization that does that sort of thing. So in my mind, it's going to be the same old, same old. DJ Moore gets 4 targets for 40 yards, and the Bears probably end up losing. It's against the Patriots, and Christian Gonzalez, we know, is one of the better cornerbacks in the league. So maybe in that regard, you see DeAndre Swift and the Bears win that football game. But I don't know if DJ Moore is involved to the extent that you hope for. He's out. He's a fringe flex candidate for me and one of those guys that I probably wouldn't play if I can help it. My final fantasy player that I hate for this week has been a fantasy revelation at a position that's really needed it, tight end. And Cade Otton has been great for the Buccaneers, especially with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin out. But the Bucs go against the Niners this week, and Fred Warner has been great at erasing those fantasy tight ends. The Niners allow a league average amount of targets to tight ends. They allow the third fewest yards after reception. So that would be a guy like Cade Otton, who's been benefiting a lot as the main target for the Buccaneers, I think, effectively getting neutralized. He's outside the top 8 tight ends for me this week, and you probably picked up Cade Otton from waivers in most regards. I'd play Mark Andrews. I'd play Jake Ferguson. I'd play Mike Gesicki in a Thursday night game against the Bengals with T. Higgins out. Those are all more than fine tight end options. And I think, again, Cade Otton from a volume perspective, low-end tight end 1, but I think Fred Warner and company neutralize that position pretty well. If you're liking the content here, it would be awesome if you could subscribe to the RotoWire YouTube channel. We have a ton of different coverage going on daily, whether it be live videos or recorded videos such as this one. And also, if you can like this one, it would be fantastic too. But lots of other content on the RotoWire site. RotoWire.com/try gets you 48-hour access overall to the site. You get the DFS stuff for college football, college basketball. You have NBA DFS pick'em entry items up there. 48-hour access to the site, rotowire.com/try. All right, moving over to the players I love this week. Tyrone Tracy immediately jumps off the board. Yes, this game is being played in Germany. There's lots of jokes you can make about the Giants-Panthers game being one of the featured European games. I will not make them. I think Tyrone Tracy could have a very massive fantasy day. I would love if the Giants could use the converted receiver more a bit in the passing game. So many teams are really great at involving the screen game, and for whatever the reason, the Giants aren't capable of doing that. But I do think Tyrone Tracy is set up to get at least 65% of the work, like he has the past couple of weeks, even when Devin Singletary has been back. And that should be enough against the league's worst team against opposing fantasy running backs in the Panthers for Tyrone Tracy to be basically a no-brainer running back 1. If you have him, you're playing Tyrone Tracy either as a running back or a flex, especially with all the bye weeks. I don't know if it needs to be a list of players I'm playing over. You're playing Tracy, end of discussion. Along the same lines, I'm also playing J.K. Dobbins just about over everyone. He's seen a yards per carry dip after those first 2 weeks, obviously, but I would imagine J.K. Dobbins is going to be once again a formidable opponent against the Titans, and the Chargers are likely going to win that game very easily. The rushing attack, the Greg Roman scheme, it's a bore for me fantasy-wise for the most part, but J.K. Dobbins has been super successful. Now, I bring Dobbins up not because it should be a debate whether to play him, but more so that this should be a sell-high opportunity for you If not this week, then of course next week after you'd assume he trounces the Titans. Gus Edwards is eligible to practice as of this recording. You have Kamani Vidal as well too. I think the Chargers will likely want to pace Dobbins just a little bit entering postseason aspirations, and there's a difficult schedule upcoming. So if you can sell Dobbins right now or before this week to a team that needs somebody for a buy, let's just say Josh Jacobs, for example, definitely do so. But Dobbins, if you have him and need to play him, you're going to be totally fine. Finally, on my love list for this week is Darnell Mooney. Now, I don't think it's dependent on Drake London playing or not playing for the Falcons. Drake London has a hit pointer. The expectation is he will play against the Saints, but the Saints are in a free fall. They traded away Marshawn Lattimore. They lost to the Panthers of all teams. They have Chris Olave and a number of other players injured or just outright playing on the offensive or not playing on the offensive line. That's a bad spot to be. Yes, it's an NFC South game. Yes, the Saints-Falcons are actually kind of an underrated rivalry matchup, similar to the Bears and Packers, but the Saints really, really stink. And maybe the Falcons end up blowing out New Orleans, but I think in that instance, Kirk Cousins and that passing attack have a large part to play in that outcome. So I think I'm playing Darnell Mooney easily as a wide receiver too. I play Mooney over any of the Colts starters like Michael Pittman or Josh Downs. I play him over Jordan Addison. I play him over Jalen Waddle. I play him over Lab McConkey. Basically anyone in that wide receiver 2 or 3 range, I think Darnell Mooney becomes an obvious start. So give me Darnell Mooney once again for possible touchdown upside, maybe in those anytime touchdown parlays that I see all the time. But also Darnell Mooney very clearly defined to me as a wide receiver 24 in that range this week.